A very good morning. You're watching NDTV World. We have the very latest as regard to Prime Minister Modi's visit in Canada. It's Mark Carney that has gone on to say that the relationships will now get only better and strengthen even further, and this is extremely important, is what Mark Carney had to say. We'll get you all the details of how high commissions are now going to be set up, the high commissioners are being appointed. A lot is taking place as far as the relationship between the two nations is concerned. We'll get you those details and a lot more. First, the headlines. India-Canada ties reset with a big breakthrough as far as the ties between the two nations is concerned. New high commissioners to be appointed. Prime Minister Modi hits out at support for terrorism while addressing the G7 summit leaders. Says that terrorism is an enemy of humanity. This is the first international trip of Prime Minister Modi ever since Operation Sindoor, reiterating India's fight against terrorism. Prime Minister Modi meets with Italian Prime Minister at the G7 summit, also held a bilateral. While talking about the great friendship with India is Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who has gone on to talk about how India and Italy share a good relationship, and Prime Minister Modi says that the relationship will only keep getting stronger. Donald Trump is demanding an unconditional surrender of the Iranian leader. He has gone on to say, we know your exact location, we can take you out, you need to surrender. Israel strikes Iran's main nuclear facility, and nuclear watchdog has gone on to confirm that very target of Israel. Let's get to your top story. A very good morning. Let's begin with Prime Minister Modi's message to G7 leaders. The Prime Minister hitting out at support for terrorism, talking about how terrorism is an enemy of humanity and no country should support terrorism. Terrorism that is being supported will finally come at a price. That is the message that Prime Minister Modi has put out in the backdrop of Operation Sindoor. Do remember, this is the first visit, the first international visit of Prime Minister Modi ever since Operation Sindoor. So in this visit, of course, Prime Minister Modi there reiterating India's stand against terrorism and speaking to the leaders of the G7 summit, asking for their support against terrorism.
भारत और कनाडा के संबंध अनेक प्रकार से बहुत ही महत्वपूर्ण है। कनाडा की अनेक कंपनियों का भारत में निवेश है। भारत के लोगों का भी कनाडा की धरती पर बहुत बड़ा निवेश है। लोकतांत्रिक मूल्यों को समर्पित कनाडा और भारत मिलकर के लोकतंत्र को मजबूत करना होगा, मानवता को मजबूत करना होगा, हमारे रिसोर्सेज का ऑप्टिमम यूटिलाइजेशन कर करके मानव जात के कल्याण के काम में कैसे ला सकते हैं, उस दिशा में हम प्रयास करते रहेंगे। और मुझे विश्वास है कि प्रधानमंत्री जी के चुनाव के बाद मुझे पहली बार मिलने का मौका मिला है, तो इस चुनाव के भव्य विजय के लिए भी मैं उनको बधाई देता हूं और आने वाले कालखंड में उनके साथ भारत और कनाडा मिलकर के अनेक क्षेत्रों में प्रगति करेंगे।
We have mutual interests in security, border security, and military security, and in commercial prosperity, and we have a variety of paths of those discussions. The Government of Canada is going to agree only to those things that are fundamentally in the interest of Canada. In many cases, there's alignment with the United States, but not all, and the discussions are continuing. They're productive discussions, but they have more to go. And as I say, they'll take all the time that's necessary, but no more.
After 2 years of diplomatic friction between India and Canada, both sides have decided now to appoint new high commissioners in each other's country. In a 40-minute-long bilateral meeting that took place between Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Mark Carney of Canada in Kananaskis on the sidelines of the G7 summit, this was the big decision that was made by the two sides. Prime Minister Mark Carney saying that this would form a foundation for the reset in the ties between the two countries. Prime Minister Modi also acknowledging the importance of India-Canada relationship. He said that Canadian companies had invested in India, Indians had invested in Canada, and thereby underlining the trade relationship also between the two sides. Both sides underlined democracy and democratic values as a basis of dealing with each other, as well as rules-based order. They spoke about issues like energy security, artificial intelligence and energy, apart from other bilateral issues that both sides believe would help restore a normalcy in their relationship. In Kananaskis, this is Maha Siddiqui for NDTV.
Thank you so much, Maha, for getting us all those details. Of course, Prime Minister Modi, they're talking about the relationship between the two countries, and now ambassadors to the countries will also be reappointed. Well, let's also get you in, this is in connection with Prime Minister Modi, they're meeting with his Italian counterpart, hailing the ties as far as the two nations are concerned, talking about how the ties will only keep getting stronger. It's Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, who's gone on to talk about the great friendship with India, hailing the relationship that she shares with Prime Minister Modi. Let's get you the latest when it comes to the situation between Iran and Israel. Now, it is Donald Trump who's gone on to say that the supreme leader of Iran needs to surrender. He's gone on to say that the United States can assassinate him, but is refraining from doing so. The only reason they're choosing not to do this is in order to avoid any kind of retaliation against American civilians and troops. He's also demanded that unconditional surrender, saying that we exactly know where you're hiding. We know you're hider, and that our patience is wearing thin, and that we can take you out, but at least for now, we're not choosing to do this. We don't want any kind of missiles, being shot at civilians or at American soldiers, is what Donald Trump has got on to say. And in order to know more on this, we have Zevika Klein, editor-in-chief of the Jerusalem Post, joining us. Thank you so much for speaking with us here on the broadcast. My first question to you is, has it come as a surprise as far as Trump's actions are concerned? Did Trump's actions come as a surprise to you?
Yeah, so I think on the one hand, you could look at it as a surprise because we've heard Donald Trump say he wants Iran to sign some sort of a deal and not have nuclear weapons. But I'm actually, I was actually surprised that he actually went to negotiations with Iran, because the Donald Trump we know from the previous, the previous administration when he was president, beginning 8 years ago, and the one we heard on the campaign is someone who is very tough and very hostile towards Iran. As a president, he made sure there'd be very substantial sanctions, something that was very different than the Obama period. So, I think the fact that Trump is now speaking this type of rhetoric is something that many of us would have expected him to do before, and now he's, in a way, coming home.
Well, also, has the theater of war changed in your opinion?
I think what's changed is the fact that Iran, definitely at the beginning Friday, sending hundreds of missiles, ballistic missiles at once, is something that at the end of the day, Israel, with all of our technological advanced, defense systems, we can't make sure that every single missile will be shot down before it gets to our territory or above our territory. It's very different when there's one missile from Yemen, and then we have the ability to shoot it down even before it gets into Israel airspace. But when you're talking about ballistic missiles, in this amount, there's, according to what the IDF said today, there's a ratio of somewhere between 10 and 15% where these missiles will not be shot down, and therefore Israelis have to, be in shelters and in safe rooms. But unfortunately, not everyone has that access. Elderly or people with difficulties to get to these shelters. And most of the people who were killed because they were not in these safe rooms.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Klein, for joining us on the broadcast early this morning. And let's just also get you the latest when it comes to the action that the United States is taking in order to bolster forces in the Middle East. Now, the United States has deployed F-16s, F-22s, and F-35 jets. This is a move that's been described as strictly defensive. The action that's been taken, the U.S. is extending its deployment of fighter aircraft warships that may join the Eastern Mediterranean operations. Pentagon has gone on to say the goal is to protect forces, and Trump has given the military options amid this escalation. The United States already so far has 40,000 troops in the region, and Iran is claiming the nuclear program is only peaceful. This is something that Iran has gone on to claim from the very start. Let's get you more details in this regard.
Well, right now we're in a state of pretty much complete uncertainty as to the direction that the president is going to decide to go. He's got this meeting going on today with his top national security aides, at which people expect that there will be a decision made to go in one of two ways. One would be the diplomatic way, but Trump has already signaled on his way back from Canada last night that he thinks the time for diplomacy is done. So that really leaves us with the second option, which is to kind of go all in and assist Israel in its attacks on Iran. Obviously, the main site that the Israelis want help with is the Fordo nuclear enrichment plant, which is built into a mountain in which the Israelis themselves can't get to because it would require a massive 30,000-pound bomb that only a B-2 bomber that the U.S. has can deliver.
And to know more on this, we have U.S. journalist joining us from Chicago, Richard Benkin. Thank you so much for speaking with us. It's late for you in the United States. It's early morning for us here. Take us through what is, the United States there increasing its fleet, increasing its boots on the ground, so to speak. We already are talking about 40,000. These are 40,000 troops of the United States that are already in the region. But now we are seeing that Donald Trump is asking for that number to go up, and also as far as the deployment of fighter aircrafts is concerned as well.
Sorry, I lost the sound on the last bit you said.
Right, sir, if you could hear me, we're talking about, the United States deploying F-16s, F-22s, F-35 jets, and this is a move that's being described as strictly defensive. But what do you make of the United States wanting to increase its boots on the ground?
Well, I think we're really not sure what the United States is going to do at this point. President Trump has a strong part of his base that would be totally opposed to any sort of offensive operations by the United States in this. I think the other thing that we should know by now is that the Israelis have pretty much done most of the job themselves, and although they can take out the Fordo nuclear center as it is from the air, I don't think anyone should be surprised if there are Israeli commandos either on the ground already in Iran or ready to go there, and they know where the entrances are. There are other ways to take that out. But I think the other thing that the United States is going to be concerned about is the Iranian Navy at Bandar Abbas Island. Iran has threatened to mine the Straits of Hormuz, which would choke off a lot of oil to parts of the West, and they're going to need that Navy. Now, the Navy's pretty much sitting ducks there in that area, and they're talking about the U.S. maybe taking out the Navy before they can mine it. However, I would be real cautious before I would believe immediately that the U.S. is going to get involved in that way. We saw before this operation began, however, there was some misdirection in how U.S. and Israeli leaders were talking about it. Could be going through that now.
And what do you make of Donald Trump taking to social media asking for an unconditional surrender of the Iranian leader?
Well, I think that was always the end game. I don't think I think not saying it up to this point was merely part of the ruse, because for many years, probably since 1973 Six-Day War, Israel has been prevailed upon by Western powers, including my country, to end their wars before they were finished, and in fact, when they actually had their boot on the neck of the enemy. And when they went into Gaza, I think there had been a decision made that that wasn't going to happen, and they were actually going to finish the job, and certainly carrying it through to what they did to Hezbollah, what they did to Hamas, that they had decided they have to do the same thing to the mullahs in Iran, because if in fact they inflict a certain amount of damage but leave that malign group of people in charge of that country, we're going to we're going to see them fight again in a few more years.
Right. Thank you so much, Mr. Venkin, for joining us on the broadcast. Thank you for breaking it down for us. Moving on, let's just also get you the impact this is having as far as Asian markets are concerned. The Asia-Pacific markets fell as escalating tensions between Israel and Iran weigh on investor sentiment. Adding fuel to fire is what reports as far as Donald Trump weighing in that military strike on Iran while demanding the country's leader surrender. Trump has asked for that unconditional surrender that we just spoke about. And the future as far as Wall Street is concerned, that continues to trade with losses after benchmark that has now given up all of Monday's gains during the trading session that took place yesterday on Tuesday. So we are seeing an impact on the markets as well, and that has impacted the markets severely so far. So we have our guest joining us, William Bueteri, joining us. Thank you so much, independent economic advisor. Sir, if you could just take us through the kind of impact that we've seen. It's been 5 days since the offensive that we're seeing on both sides. 224 people that Iran is claiming to have been killed on its side, and Israel, they're talking about at least 24 people who have been killed. But the impact, the bloodbath, is being seen as far as the markets are concerned as well. Take us through it.
Well, the economic impact globally of the war of the last 5 days is actually remarkably modest. We've seen some increase in the price of oil, but very modest. Brent is still only about $76.50 a barrel. And we haven't seen outside Israel and Iran itself, which are of course very severely impacted, we haven't seen any major interruptions of trade flows or of production. Now, it is possible that if the US does move not just on the defense of Israel, but aggressively on the attack against Iran, that there could be further disruption of global oil markets. But again, I don't think that is particularly likely, because even if the US were to knock out the nuclear installations at Fordo, Iran doesn't really have the facility to, in any lasting way, block the Strait of Hormuz.
Right, of course.
So
it's really come to the wheels
that,
of prices going up, whether it's crude oil prices or the price of gold. Thank you so much for speaking with us here on NDTV. Moving on now to breaking news coming in. And this is in regard to the US President Donald Trump, who will be meeting with Pakistan's army chief. That is the latest that we have for you at this point in time, that Donald Trump will be hosting Asim Munir for lunch. Now, this is a meeting, this is after the denial of the official invite. Donald Trump has given time to the Pakistani army chief. This is the United States honoring Pakistan's army chief with a lunch invite. This is the United States and the leader of the United States, Donald Trump, who will be hosting the Pakistan's army chief, and this is going to be taking place in the United States after all kind of denials that were being initially made in regard to the invite. And with that, we're slipping away a short break. Back with a whole lot more on the other side. Just stay with us.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
Welcome back. Let's get to the very latest, and this is in regard to the EU ban. We are talking about the ban that EU is now going to be imposing in regard to the latest that we have for you at this point in time. This is the EU readying itself to ban on Russian gas imports, and this is going to be taking place by 2028. So the EU proposing that legal ban on Russian gas imports, Russian LNG. This is going to be phased out, and that's going to be in a phased-out manner over the next 2 years by 2027. Long-term contracts face a deadline of January of 2028. So these, of course, also includes other countries, including Hungary and Slovakia, granted more time to comply. The energy shift marks a final break with Moscow and the EU there targeting short-term deals first and then the full exit. And let's get you the latest, and this is in regard to the protests. These are protests that are taking place by people in Kenya. So we are seeing that people are protesting as far as this latest protest is concerned. Let's get you the latest, and one person has died in the protests that have taken place over the death of a blogger in custody. So the latest as far as the protests are concerned that erupted over the blogger's death, violent clashes erupted in downtown Nairobi, and protesters are blaming the police for the death of the blogger. The government has accused of deploying goons to riot. This is the police as far as their stand is concerned with counter-protesters amid chaos. So motorcycles torch as they have also started to use other means in order to disrupt the crowds there. And let's also get you the very latest, and this is in regard to Donald Trump's organization that has gone ahead and launched T1 phone services. Trump Mobile has been unveiled. We're talking about a phone plan which is costing to the tune of about $47, $47.45 to be precise. The T1 phone promises unlimited data, calls as well as text. Aaron Trump says that the service will be American-made, and the plan coincides with Trump's anniversary in politics. So the $499 Trump phone to be built in the United States, no contract or credit check is required, and Trump is targeting Apple with its Made in America push. The service aims to disrupt the mobile phone industry at the moment. So the data plan, the phone plan is going to come under $50, and the phone could cost up to $500. Now let's also talk about OpenAI that has won $200 million US dollars. This is the US military contract that OpenAI will be developing artificial intelligence for war-fighting missions. The Defense Department has awarded that kind of contract. The project includes drone defense as well as cyber security and promising ethical use under its guidelines. So OpenAI is saying that AI will improve the veteran health services, and this is going to be the first major government contract under its new initiative. And let's get you the latest, and we're talking about Alfred Brendel, who has died at the age of 94. This is the world's renowned piano player who died in London. He was celebrated for his various interpretations and poetry. He died peacefully, surrounded by family, known for his humor, his essays, and his musical depth. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of NDTV World. We will keep getting you the latest on the way, on a very short note there. Thank you so much for watching.
When facts are fragmented, we put the pieces together. Where power collides with truth, we are there.
Behind me is that massive security arrangements that are in place.
Behind fractured boundaries, we clear the fog of war. Fault Lines with Gauri Dwivedi, only on NDTV World.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
Hello and welcome. We have a very special guest with us here today on the NDTV network for an exclusive interview. It's the Second Lady of the United States, Ms. Usha Vance. Ms. Vance, NDTV की दर्शकों की तरफ से आपको नमस्कार. You know, there's a lot of curiosity about what's going on in your kitchen. Everyone is most interested because the Vice President himself has said that he was a meat and potatoes man until he met you, and then your mother taught him how to cook. So now everyone wants to know, what is it that he cooks for you?
Well, he's very experimental. He'll try anything. So he's done everything from chana masala to, has been making a specialty of desserts recently. So our children especially enjoy that.
In your home, what does a traditional Indian meal look like?
Well, my family is from Andhra Pradesh. And
they have the most amazing cuisine.
Yes, I think so. Although we've been enjoying the food of other areas as well while we're here. So my mother and grandmother are both excellent cooks, and my father too actually makes very good dosa, pesaratu, things like that. So, I mean, I think it looks exactly like what you might imagine. You know, sometimes it's very simple and it's sambar and rice and some sort of kura. Sometimes it's a little bit more complicated, and my mom pulls out all the stops and makes pulao or something, or a few dishes. But it's a vegetarian household, so that usually defines it.
And the Andhra cuisine is famous for its chutneys. Do you manage to get all the ingredients together there?
I am not a preparer of chutneys, but my grandmother makes wonderful chutneys, and I think she manages to figure it all out. She gets the ingredients at the Indian stores near us.
Well, that's wonderful. You know, there was something else that I was reading about you, and the fact that at your wedding, you had a traditional Indian ceremony, and you also had a traditional American ceremony.
This is NDTV, and you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Breakfast News. I'm Gargi Rawat. Stay with us for all the news you need to start your day with. Coming up ahead, Karnataka Minister Priyank Kharge confirms NDTV's report. Also, a breakthrough in ties between India and Canada at the G7. Also coming up ahead, Pak Army Chief Asim Munir to have lunch at the White House. All that and more. Let's take a look at the headlines. Karnataka Minister Priyank Kharge confirms NDTV's news break. He's got no central clearance to visit the US to attend two events. Says he will ask for an explanation. A big breakthrough in resetting of ties during Prime Minister Modi's meeting with Canada Prime Minister Mark Carney on the sidelines of the G7 meet in Canada. New High Commissioners to be appointed. At the G7 outreach session, Prime Minister Modi's big message on terror says terrorism is an enemy of humanity. If any country supports terrorism, it will have to pay the price for it. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump is set to meet with Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff, General Asim Munir, over lunch at the White House today. This coming just weeks after Operation Sindoor and the border clashes between India and Pakistan. In a series of posts, US President Donald Trump threatens Iran, demanding an unconditional surrender in its conflict with Israel. Says Khamenei is an easy target but safe for now. And as the air war between Iran and Israel enters the sixth day, Israel strikes Iran's main nuclear facility. Nuclear watchdog confirms the hit on the Natanz facility. And in the sensational honeymoon murder case, a second murder weapon now recovered by the Meghalaya police from the gorge where the body was found. The wife, Sonam, will be produced in court tomorrow. All right, our top story now, a story broken by NDTV. Karnataka Minister Priyank Kharge has now responded to that news break. Mr. Kharge, who is also the son of Congress Chief Mallikarjun Kharge, has been denied clearance to visit the United States to attend two events. He said that he will not comment on the issue for now and would seek an explanation once he is back in the country. Now, if we read out the post that he put out on social media, he says, I'm holding back on making any public statements for now. Once I'm back in Bengaluru, I will seek a clear explanation from the government of India regarding this denial. So Priyank Kharge not getting that necessary clearance to visit the United States. Let's go across to Deepak, who broke this story. Deepak, give us the details. He was already in Europe and he was supposed to go on to the US to attend these two events. However, he hasn't got the clearance from the center.
Well, yes, and this could, of course, turn quite political very quickly. We are expecting a detailed statement from him once he reaches Bengaluru. I'm expecting him to reach this evening, according to the last conversation that we had. But more importantly, like you were mentioning, he was in France, at Paris, multiple conferences that, he was a part of. Air Forum 2025 was there at the Paris Aero Show as well. Other, conferences as well that he attended, representing, the government of Karnataka as well as India there. Speaking about, the importance of aerospace sector in India, and more importantly, trying to even bring in investments possibly to the country. Now, at the back of all of this, he was next scheduled to visit the United States. Two important conferences there, the Boston Bio 2025. There was also the DAC in San Francisco, the Design and Automation Conference, which he was supposed to be a part of. There were several, delegates, including officers from Karnataka, who have already got a clearance, and they are on their way to the United States is what I'm learning. However, the clearance for Mr. Priyank Kharge hasn't come through. He's the Minister for IT, BT here in Karnataka, of course, and he was supposed to lead this delegation. Now, the reason for this clearance not coming through is not yet very clear. He has said that he'll want to fully comment on it only once he reaches back to Bengaluru. And if it is a case, because, whenever ministers do take a delegation to another country, the MEA has to give a clearance, the state government has to give a clearance, and of course the receiving country has to as well give some sort of clearances. And here, if you go by what he has in fact said in that tweet, in the last, he mentions that there is denial here, and he will ask the centre about it. It's almost certain that here that the denial has come in from the centre, at least from his point of view. So how will the centre really react? How is this going to escalate further into a political issue? That is something that remains to be seen.
We're also joined by BJP spokesperson from Karnataka, Prashant GS. Mr. Prashant, what is your response to this news first broken by NDTV and then confirmed by Priyank Kharge that he has not been given central clearance for two events that he was invited to visit in the United States?
Gargi, I don't think there is clarity as to at what level the clearance has been stopped even now, because even Mr. Priyank Kharge himself is not aware, I believe, because which is what his official statement is also. So let's await the details. Let's find out what has happened and why something was clearance was denied either at the government level or at the US level. At least there is no official information out in the public domain as such. So let's await for the official confirmations and details coming out, and then probably we'll be able to take a pragmatic call on that. It's true, because even Mr. Priyank Kharge is not aware as to who has denied him the clearance. So let the facts emerge, and then probably it will be a better time to.
But Mr. Prashant, Mr. Priyank Kharge in his post, Mr. Priyank Kharge in his social media post, however, has gone on to say that he will ask the centre for answers. He is even saying that there was a denial, and it is in all as many words suggesting that the denial came in from the centre.
Fair enough. If he's so certain, let's await the details. On what basis? Because, as you understand, these protocols for official visits have to be cleared by the Ministry of External Affairs, despite somebody holding a valid US visa. So we have to understand from the Ministry of External Affairs, if at all, Priyank Kharge's statement is true, that centre only has denied him and not the US. So we will find out, let the truth emerge from the MEA's official sources and handles, then we will comment on that as to what led to this particular non-clearance for Priyank Kharge. It's too early to speculate on anything.
Right. So you're actually suggesting that he may not have got a US visa? I mean, I think he says he will ask the centre as to why he didn't get that clearance.
No, Gandhi, I'm not saying that.
I'm saying this is in fact something we've seen in the past as well when it comes to the opposition and these sort of invitations that they may get to attend various events. We saw it with Mr. Kejriwal as well. Very often the centre denies that clearance and does not allow opposition leaders to go abroad. This is what opposition leaders in fact say, that they're not allowed to go abroad when they're invited, and they're going there to promote their states.
Huge delegation of opposition leaders to various parts of the world. So
yes,
it's not true that we deny it to opposition leaders. In fact, many opposition leaders were sent by the government of India after the Operation Sindoor.
Well, that's a whole different matter, isn't it?
We are not, averse to any opposition leader visiting, because we know time and again Rahul Gandhi goes outside India and defames India. Has centre denied him clearance any time? No. Even now Rahul Gandhi is missing in action. Nobody knows where he is. So therefore, it's very unfair to blame the centre for everything. Rahul Gandhi time and again has defamed India on various occasions outside India. It is on record. Wherever he travels, he defames India. He doesn't uphold the sovereignty and integrity of the country. So just because he's doing it, centre has not denied him clearance. He is freely traveling. Even now we are not aware which country he is in.
Okay, Prashant, so you're saying that you're going to wait for Mr. Priyank Kharge to come, clarify what exactly has happened, but, if it becomes clear here that the centre had a role in the clearance, how is this probably going to fare for, the BJP?
Deepak, it's not about centre having a role. We have to find out officially as to what is the reason, if at all it has happened. See, I am giving you an example of Rahul Gandhi travelling freely outside India and taking personal liberty to defame India. Has center denied him clearance anytime? No. Which means you have to wait for the official sources to comment on why they took a particular decision, if at all they've taken. And I'm sure that is in the interest of the country and nothing more. If at all they've taken a decision, it is in the interest of the country.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you, Prashant GS, for speaking to NDTV. And Deepak will continue to track this story very, very closely there. As he said, when Mr. Priyank Kharge comes back, perhaps more clarity will emerge on this entire matter. He has said he will ask the centre as to why his clearance wasn't given to go to the United States to attend these two events he was invited for. But moving on now to some breaking news coming in. And US President Donald Trump is scheduled to meet with Pakistan's Chief of Army Staff, General Asim Munir, or rather Field Marshal Munir, over lunch today. In fact, he has been invited to the White House. An official White House itinerary of President Trump shows his lunch meeting is fixed with the Pakistan Field Marshal, and this comes a few weeks after India and Pakistan had engaged in the intense border clashes, ending in a ceasefire, Operation Sindoor, and then we sent delegations across the world to talk about India's point of view and how Pakistan is from where the terror is emanating, from where the Pahalgam attack took place in which 26 citizens died. Well, let's go across to Ghazali. And now for more in Ghazali, just coming weeks after that, and you know, after India trying to put forth its point of view and how we are a victim of terror from Pakistan, now you have Asim Munir. We've been covering how he is in the United States, and today he's been invited for lunch at the White House.
See, two things, Garge. This is not unusual for an army chief to be invited to meet US President. It has happened in the past. But very significant from 2 points of view. Due to the developing situation in the Middle East, Pakistan is certainly an interesting and important partner for the United States when it comes to controlling Iran, Afghanistan, and other such states in our region, in Southeast Asia region. Pakistan perfectly serves US interest in the region, and that is perhaps why he has been invited for a meet with United States President Mr. Donald Trump. But obviously, in the wake of Operation Sindoor, it is very significant to note and observe what could be the elements of communication when a readout is issued from White House. We'll have to see that whether Donald Trump, who has been claiming that he was the one who brokered peace between India and Pakistan by luring them over trade, will he speak anything about how Pakistan is responsible for fomenting terror on Indian soil and how it keeps backing those terrorists who have been sanctioned or facing sanctions from US, from UN and other global forums. So that would be something which will certainly expose the kind of a stand US takes when it comes to terrorism, and when it comes to terrorism sort of backed by their own allies. Pakistan is one of their allies. So we'll have to see whether Donald Trump calls Pakistan out when it comes to terrorism and what kind of strategies and discussions happen related to Middle East as well, as Israel and Iran are already engaged in a 5-day war as of now. So we'll have to see, because Pakistan, on one hand, interestingly, the Pakistan Prime Minister was very concerned because Iran was engaged, is engaged in war with Israel, and he claimed that all Muslim nations should come together. And most of these Muslim nations, which Pakistan claims to be, which Pakistan appealed to come together against Israel, are already US allies. So these issues will certainly be discussed. But from India's point of view, we'll have to see whether US calls out Pakistan over terrorism or not. Because FATF recently called out the Pahalgam attack, saying that how certain nations are backing or must have funded the terrorists who had carried